You're sitting at your kitchen table at 2 in the morning, staring at numbers on your phone screen that somehow feel both too small and impossibly large at the same time. The glow illuminates a face caught between exhaustion and something that might be hope. Maybe you've been tracking these numbers for months, watching them climb with the patience of someone tending a garden that grows in seasons, measured not in weeks, but in years. And there's a particular weight to this moment, isn't there? When you realize that money isn't just currency flowing through your life, but something that quietly reshapes the very architecture of how you think about tomorrow. Before we begin, remember, what follows isn't advice, but reflection. A way to understand how money moves through thought and emotion. Tonight, we're exploring 3 net worth milestones that rarely appear in financial headlines or popular discussions, yet they create shifts in how human beings experience their relationship with money, time, and possibility. These aren't the obvious markers everyone talks about. They're quieter transformations, psychological thresholds where something fundamental seems to change in the way you perceive your place in the world. The first milestone arrives when your net worth equals exactly 1 year of your current spending. Not your income, but what you actually spend to maintain your life as it exists today. This moment carries weight because it represents something meaningful. You've successfully captured an entire year of your life in financial form. Every coffee, every rent payment, every unexpected repair bill from the past 12 months now exists as a cushion beneath your feet. What makes this milestone psychologically powerful isn't the mathematical achievement. It's the quiet realization that you've likely altered your relationship with time itself. Before reaching this point, your financial decisions operated within the constraints of immediate necessity. You made choices based on what would happen next week, next month, maybe next quarter. But when you've saved a full year of living expenses, your mind may begin calculating differently. Research from behavioral economics suggests that our decision-making processes can change when we move from scarcity-based thinking to what psychologists sometimes describe as temporal abundance. Your neural pathways, previously devoted to short-term survival calculations, may start redirecting toward longer-term pattern recognition. You begin noticing opportunities that were always there but remained invisible when your attention was consumed by immediate financial pressures. This isn't about feeling wealthy or reaching some predetermined definition of success. It's about experiencing a shift in how urgency operates in your life. Decisions that once felt desperate begin feeling strategic. Career choices that seemed impossible become worth considering. The weight of financial anxiety, which may have been so constant you stopped noticing it, begins lifting in ways that surprise you. The second milestone occurs when your net worth reaches the point where it could theoretically replace your income for 5 full years. This threshold creates what researchers have identified as a kind of increased possibility consciousness, a psychological state where your mind begins processing risk and opportunity through an adjusted internal framework. At this level, something notable happens to your perception of failure. Previously, financial mistakes felt catastrophic because they threatened immediate stability. But when you've accumulated 5 years of financial runway, your relationship with uncertainty often transforms. You begin understanding that many setbacks are temporary, many opportunities allow multiple attempts, and many fears about money were rooted in scarcity that may no longer define your reality. This milestone doesn't make you reckless. Instead, it makes you thoughtful in a different way. You start evaluating choices based on their potential for growth rather than their potential for harm. Your mind, no longer consumed with defensive calculations, has bandwidth available for creative and strategic thinking that might have been inaccessible before. People often describe reaching this point as feeling like they've been holding their breath for years without realizing it, and suddenly they can breathe again. It's not that all financial concerns disappear, but rather that money stops being the primary lens through which you evaluate every decision. The third milestone is the most subtle and perhaps the most transformative. It arrives when your net worth can generate enough passive income to help support what economists call your baseline happiness expenses. the fundamental costs that allow you to maintain your current level of life satisfaction without compromise. This isn't about luxury or excess. It's about reaching a point where the money you've accumulated may begin working independently of your daily efforts, generating enough return to cover the expenses that matter most to your sense of well-being. And maybe that's housing costs, or healthcare, or the ability to visit family regularly, whatever constitutes your personal definition of financial peace. At this threshold, you begin experiencing what some researchers informally refer to as a feeling of money irrelevance. Not because you have unlimited resources, but because you've reached a point where your basic contentment no longer depends on your next paycheck. Your relationship with work shifts from necessity to choice. Your relationship with time shifts from trading it for survival to investing it in meaning. What's fascinating about these 3 milestones is how they reveal money's nature as a psychological tool, rather than just an economic one. Each threshold doesn't just influence your bank account, it may also shape your decision-making processes and your experience of being human in a world where time and resources intersect. These transformations happen gradually, almost imperceptibly, until suddenly you notice that your inner dialogue about money has changed. The voice that once calculated and worried and feared becomes calmer, more strategic, more focused on growth than on protection. Understanding this shift requires recognizing that these milestones don't announce themselves with fanfare or celebration. There's no confetti falling when your investment account crosses a particular threshold. No notification that pops up saying your life has changed. Instead, these transformations reveal themselves through subtle alterations in how you respond to everyday situations. You might notice it first in how you handle unexpected expenses. That car repair that would have once sent you into a spiral of anxiety becomes simply an inconvenience to manage. The medical bill that arrives in the mail gets processed through a different part of your mind, one that calculates solutions rather than catastrophes. Your body's stress response to financial surprises begins operating on a different frequency entirely. What's particularly interesting is how these psychological shifts create ripple effects that extend far beyond your relationship with money. When your baseline anxiety about financial survival diminishes, mental energy that was previously consumed by defensive thinking becomes available for other purposes. You start noticing patterns in your career that you'd been too stressed to recognize. Relationships begin operating under different dynamics when financial desperation no longer influences your social calculations. Research from institutions like the National Bureau of Economic Research suggests that individuals who reach certain wealth thresholds can show differences in how they process risk-related information. Their minds may engage uncertainty through different pathways than those operating under financial stress. This isn't about becoming careless or disconnected from reality. It's about accessing cognitive resources that scarcity-based thinking had kept locked away. The beauty of understanding these milestones lies not in reaching them, but in recognizing how they quietly reshape the landscape of human experience. Money, it turns out, was never just about the numbers. It has always been intertwined with time, choice, and the subtle freedom that comes from knowing you have options when the world asks difficult questions of you. These thresholds don't promise transformation, they simply highlight it, one quiet moment of realization at a time. If this changed how you see money, subscribe and keep building your engine of understanding. Your next chapter is on screen. Understand. Draw, grow.